Welcome back, everyone. Now, some of you guys may be saying to yourselves, my backgrounds don't really look well. They don't match my character aesthetic, nor do they seem to even fit the atmosphere. So, in the process of me drawing a background for a Cutify challenge, I decided to share 5 tips with you that made my backgrounds improve significantly. Number 1. The biggest and most important thing we all need to do when drawing backgrounds is to simply draw a rough idea of what you want to draw. A lot of times, especially what I used to do and a lot of more beginner artists do, is they tend to want to draw out a full, good, fleshed out drawing without understanding the sketch is the longest part. The sketch is where you take the time out to draw rough ideas, continuously clean up and fix those rough ideas, and add more and more until you get to a point where you're like, this is what I want, this is what I'm going to finalize with. So take the opportunity and the time to just draw a rough idea, and don't shoot for a finished product or a grand looking sketch off the start. It can be clean and it can be dirty, doesn't matter. Number 2. What follows what? The biggest part in drawing backgrounds and even character sketches is what follows what. Are you drawing the background following the character and the positioning of the character, or are you placing the character in the environment to match the aesthetic of the environment? Based off what you're drawing first depends solely on how you want the aesthetic to fit. And while this may be adjusted, switched, or even countered based off of the way you draw, the overall ideology is if you're drawing a perspective drawing, like let's say toss a generalized idea out there, and you're drawing something very complex, start with the background, draw the buildings that are skyscraping from the bottom up into a very narrow point at the very top for your perspective that loops around and bridges outwards in a very odd shaped but yet very good looking perspective. From there, you then take the same perspective lines, the same shapes, the same background you already have, and then place the character in with the same aesthetic so that it matches the background and everything's lined up, rather than placing a character then doing a background. And then vice versa. If you know you're going to do a character sketch where your character is going to be posed a certain way, focus on posing the character in the way that you know the character posed, so that when you draw the background, especially if the background is just kind of built around the character's pose, like for example my artwork right here, then that's a legitimate excuse to draw the background next or last or second from the actual character sketch itself. Now, refocusing on the sketch that I'm doing right now, as you can see here, I'm just adding some stuff I find interesting, adjusting it towards the character, and just trying to make it more of a realistic background you would have inside of a living room, while also keeping a entertaining aesthetic to it. Which brings us to our next point. Number 3. Adding a touch of you. Now, a lot of advanced artists, they will integrate themselves inside of their artwork. Now, a lot of beginner artists happen to struggle with this. And it has nothing to do with, oh, well, I like this in my art and I like this in my art. No. We all have our own preferences, but we fail to integrate our humor, things from our life inside of our artworks, which invest our life into the same thing we're drawing because we want to express our minds. And because of that, we fail to properly express our minds inside of our artworks, not allowing us to feel more entwined with our artworks and enjoy drawing a lot more. What I happen to do is I happen to take little humors and different things that entertain me as an artist and draw it back. For example, look at the portrait we have on the wall of the artwork I'm making. the artwork I made back in a video full of PNGs. I think it was either soon after one of my fight videos from my scrimmages or whatnot, but I do remember making it a video several weeks prior. In that video, we showcased a funny little stickman. The same stickman I used back then that was sliced and diced for chopped purposes is placed next to the katana, which is a slicing weapon, as it showcases fear because it's next to it while it's being inside of a portrait. It's something that can very easily destroy and break the portrait itself. Little humor like that really allows you to feel more entwined with the artwork itself, and it makes you feel more alive and entertained while drawing. On top of that, let's look at the sign on the door. The sign says the zombies are coming, a reference to Plants vs. Zombies and a game in which they have a traffic cone zombie, one that is unfortunately very annoying to fight against, especially back during your childhoods. So that was a good reference back to the character I drew, and I referenced that last video. And even now you see me drawing a flower with sunglasses and a face on it. The whole point is be carefree. Draw what you like and draw what references you as an artist, and don't be so focused on improvement that you forget to include a humor in your daily life. Now, number 4, picking an aesthetic. Now, while this may seem a bit strange and you're like, picking an aesthetic for a background, that's kind of obvious. What I mean by that is pick your main focus. Is it a perspective-based background? Something that's supposed to tilt around the earth? Something that's supposed to showcase a fisheye perspective or an angle that we haven't seen? Or something that's supposed to make the environment seem more pizzazz? Or is it supposed to be vibrant, supposed to dedicate towards a specific theme or mood, a color theory spaced background, just supposed to encapsulate images or characters or whatnot, just to really revolve around the character? Or, on the other hand, is it really just based on just making the background as in detailed as possible, kind of like the anatomy for buildings but for the background, and you're trying to ensure that the castle is, all the stones and stuff are all molded together right. For in my case, the living room is all organized in a very specific way, and then you place a character in to just as an aesthetic in the background portrait but not as the main background portrait. By deciding between these, you are able to effectively decide on your major goal and achieving with the background. This helps out a lot so you don't go all over the place by trying to focus too much on making sure your perspective is all the way off the charts, your building anatomy for your buildings, your properties, the objects and everything, just the ability to sculpt for all those things are off the charts. The colors and everything is off the charts. Now don't get me wrong, there's brothers like Junji Ito and other wonderful artists that have the ability and talent to do things like this, but even then they still have a major viewpoint or focal point of their art that they encapsulate all the rest of their skills around. So even though not everything is going to be perfect in the other areas, the main focal point carries the aspect of what they're trying to sell with that background. Number 5, tidying your sketch. Now I know you guys may be saying, but you just said don't worry about keeping your sketch super clean. Don't worry about having all your lines perfect, just draw. And yes, that's what you're supposed to do in a sketch, because it is a sketch. But keep in mind that a lot of mistakes beginners make is not having the lines that they need visible for their line art actually visible. So when it comes to tidying up your sketch, I know a lot of you guys may have heard, always keep your lines clean and always keep your lines always lined up a certain way and done a certain way to ensure that your sketches are clean and nice. But sketches are sketches. They're supposed to be placed down of your thoughts. But the way you clean it up is simply by highlighting what the major focal point is, or just continuously adding another layer, thinning out the layer. And as you see me do here, I do both. I take one, after I draw one section very messy, I clean it out with a slightly thicker line. Then what I do next is I make another layer and I clean it out. Then I add more and more, and I continue to repeat the process until I get a nice clean looking background or character, and it allows me to just make a nice and healthy sketch. This sets you up very well for transitioning to the line art layer. And a lot of times, if your sketch is clean enough, or you're more a color theory heavy artist instead of line art, or especially if you're a painter, you can go right into your colors as long as you have a clean sketch. So by focusing on making sure that your lines are right, you have a guidelines as you're drawing along and placing your ideas down, you're fine. The whole point of the sketch is to not only draw what's in your head, but to draw it with clarity, so you're able to always make adjustments later on, and you're always able to clean it up later on. So just keep that in mind whenever you're drawing your sketches. Thicken the area that you want to keep, or the right line, and you can always adjust it as you go along. Make another layer, lower the opacity down on the previous layer, and continue to draw over and over, and add more and more stuff if necessary in case you need to fix it. And if you ever need to add anything later, then always feel free to add it. Again, this is the sketch. You're always adding things, you're always changing things, and it's never too late to make adjustments to things. Unless you're dead seriously about to finish the artwork, then, I mean, that's going to be a lot of work for you to do. But technically, you're never done the process of sketching until you just move on from the sketch. A lot of times I miss things and I go right back. But keeping it back on the point. Keep your sketch clean, keep it readable, but remember to always keep your thoughts in your sketch. And this is the finished project. By doing the background here, as you can see, I have the sunflowers. Well, really just flowers, not really sunflowers, but just nice looking flowers. With sunglasses on, I thought that would look really nice. Took the inspiration from Plants vs. Zombies again, and just fun little doodle ideas. Then obviously we got the little buddy right here, the sword, the very traumatized flower. Then we got the plants in the background, nice little cartoonified or cartoony looking trophy. The zombies are coming door. I'm going to slow this down a little bit so you guys can actually see it. The zombies are coming door, the trophy, the plant, our character right here, sitting right in front of the couch. That was probably not aligned super well. You can see that she's obviously sitting down behind the couch. The sunflowers right here, the traumatized plant right here. Obviously, witnessing this. And we obviously got our little stick buddy right here. But overall, I think that this background not only represents my creativity, but really puts in perspective how much can you actually do by just taking time out and just focusing on building a nice sketch for characters, and including in this nice design and concept idea for a challenge. This turned out very well, and I deeply enjoyed the process of doing this. My next video, I'll be going over line art, as I know that line art has a huge process, and it's a very, very, very hard thing to accomplish and do. But without further ado, I want to thank you guys for watching today's wonderful video. Sorry for a lengthy one, but I hope you guys learned a lot when it comes to drawing backgrounds and just being able to enjoy a process of sketching. Well, I want to thank you guys for watching today's video. If you have not watched part 1, I recommend that you guys do that. But I wish you guys the best of luck. Enjoy the rest of your day, you guys, and continue drawing.